Continuing on with the preventive maintenance and renewal of this 95 F-250 that I recently got. I've already changed the engine oil and filter, spark plugs, distributor cap, and rotor. And after that I went ahead and changed the automatic transmission fluid and filter last weekend, and also was able to drain the torque converter and flush out both the in-tank transmission cooler as well as the oil-to-air transmission cooler. And just kind of making my way to the back, I'm now going to focus on this 10 1/4 inch full floating limited slip differential. And I'm going to go ahead and change the fluid in that. It's supposed to be changed every 100,000 miles, so it's 50,000 miles overdue. And just like the transmission, we have to remove the differential cover back there. There's no drain plug. So before you do that and break that seal, one of the first things you want to do is make sure you can put oil back in it. And there's a drain plug right there that you want to make darn sure you can get loose before you do anything else. And it's also a good idea to take that out just to see how much oil is left in there. And in this particular case, that drain plug was never removed. And it was a bear to get that thing out of there. It took a while, so I'm glad I did that before I started to do anything. And then, after I did that, I went ahead and made sure that I can loosen up all these bolts around here, around the perimeter of the cover, before I lose any oil in there, because I want to still be able to drive the truck. So the other thing that you want to do is take a brush and just kind of go around the outer surfaces here, as well as the cover itself, and then also take some compressed air and just get that area as clean as you can, because when you go to take this cover off of here, you don't want anything on the top to drop down in and get into the gear train in here and everything. It just would make for a pretty big mess and hard to clean off. I've already got a drain bucket here. And so what I'm going to do is just loosen all the bolts around the perimeter, and then I'll just be taking a screwdriver and getting under here and then prying that cover loose, and then all the oil should come out. So let me get started doing that, and you guys will see the result. Okay, as you can see, all the bolts have been removed except one at the very top, just to maintain control. Got all the bolts lined up sitting on the ground, including the identification tag, and you can already see some of the old lubricant draining out. So what I want to do is I'll just grab it kind of right up here to keep away from the oil, and just sort of pry that away, and in a very controlled fashion move that away just a little bit from the differential carrier and just let that oil drain out. Try to minimize the mess as much as possible. Kind of like the transmission fluid change. This axle is a 10 1/4 inch limited slip, so it's got basically 4 quarts of oil in here. And when I checked the oil, when I took out the drain plug, the oil level looked fine. So I know that the gears are probably going to be in good shape, but I went ahead and took a sample anyway. And just like for the transmission fluid and the oil, the analysis will tell me exactly what kind of shape this differential is in. This has never been changed before, judging by the difficulty of getting the fill plug out, and also the bolts around the perimeter here. So it looks like all the oil's drained out. I'm going to go ahead and set the camera down and take out the last bolt and get this cover off. Okay, now that you got the cover off, and sorry for everything being so close up, it's kind of cramped under here. This is a really good time to give everything a good inspection, and one of the first things I notice is I've got some evidence of foaming in the gear oil, and that's never good. You can see also along the ring gear some foaming, and foaming doesn't lubricate very well, so that oil is definitely old, and tired. The anti-foam agents in that lubricant are just gone. Looks like something like the foam on the top of the ocean. But the rain gear looks in really good shape. I don't see any evidence of scoring or anything like that, or uneven wear. So that means that bearings are in pretty good shape on each side. And then we can look in here with our look in the spider gears. They all look like they're in good shape, and you can also see some of the clutch packs on the side. That's what makes this a limited slip differential. Can't really see them too good, but they're there. And then this piece right here is the ABS sensor ring. Looks like there's a little bit of sludge in the bottom. I'm going to try to see if I can clean that up a little bit, but overall this thing looks like it's in pretty good shape. The next thing to do will be to clean all the gasket mating surfaces. Use some brake cleaner or something like that to get all the oil off, and put a gasket on there and some RTV, and I'm going to have to let the RTV set up for 12 hours or so, so through the magic of video editing you might be able to see the results pretty quick. Just wanted to show you guys the inside of the cover real quick before I do anything with it and clean it. You can see some of the bubbles, some of the evidence of foaming, and this was not driven since last night actually. I like to let it sit for a while and cool down and let all the oil drain from the gears and get at the bottom so I get all the oil out. You can definitely tell where the oil level was. Different line, you can see the line there. And there's some sludge buildup, but not really a whole lot. This has never been changed, so it's got 150,000 miles on it and 17 years old, so it did its job, but definitely time to go out with the old and in with the new. Okay, that's what the differential cover looks like all cleaned up. I've used some of the brake cleaner to clean the gasket mating surfaces really good so there's not any grease on there whatsoever. And I also cleaned the inside, and so now the next step is to go ahead and lay down a thin bead of silicone sealer all the way around the perimeter, and go back in the vehicle with it. Okay, there's what the bead looks like of the RTV sealer. I like putting an extra little bit around all the bolt holes and everything, and you don't want too much sealer because you don't want it to mush out and get into the differential and everything and cause problems. So you just want to make sure it's continuous with no break so that oil doesn't leak out. And so now this thing is ready to go back in and be tightened down, and about 24 hours later, or just in a few seconds for you guys, I'll be able to add the new differential fluid. Okay, now that the differential cover is put back on and all the RTV sealers dry, it's ready to get the gear oil. And just like the transmission, the drain plug in this differential has a little magnet on the end of it. And as you can see, it's pretty dirty. It's got quite a bit of ferrous material on there. And so what you want to do is get that stuff cleaned off as good as you can. See if I can get it out here in the light and get a better look at it. And that way your magnet will be a lot more effective at removing any future contaminants. So let me go ahead and get that cleaned up, and then we're going to be ready to fill it full of oil finally. Okay, now that I got the drain plug magnet all cleaned up as best I can and everything, and also cleaned up the threads so it'll go in easier. Just like with the transmission, I'm just going to go ahead and use the same tool I used last time to pump it full of gear oil. Just a standard little hand pump although this will take a little bit longer because the oil's thicker. But just want to go ahead and put 4 quarts in there, and just enough until you start seeing a little bit dribble out of the fill hole, and then it'll be all filled up. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Not a lot of people change their differential fluid, and as you can tell by the look of the magnet, in fact, I still have that towel that I cleaned the magnet off with. It was definitely sorely needed. All that junk right here came off of that magnet, and that's just stuff you don't want floating around in a differential. So definitely good to change all that. The manual recommends changing it about every 100,000 miles, and this truck has 150,000 miles, so it's 50,000 miles overdue, and this should give me a lot better fuel economy and a lot more protection for the gears. So as far as the drivetrain fluids go, that basically constitutes all the fluids front to back. It's a 4x4, so there's still a differential up front that I need to change out, but that's not quite as critical because it's not used very much, but I'll definitely get around to doing that. And carry on with some of the other fluids like power steering and brake fluid. But hopefully this video was helpful to you guys. It wasn't terribly hard to change all that out, just a little bit of mess and a little bit of time for the sealer to dry, but otherwise not too hard of a job, and will save you a lot of money in rear axle repairs.